Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And today's video is going to be a true crime video. And I am Jen, aka Jennifer, whichever. It really doesn't matter to me. You can call me Jen. You can call me Jennifer. Just don't call me late to my funeral. Okay, so um, those of you that are new, welcome. If you've never watched before, please, I hope you enjoy. And if you are new, welcome. And I just repeated myself. Oh my gosh. So, I hope everyone is doing well this morning. We are going to get started on this case, the case that we're going to talk about today. Now, I'm going to give you a little background before we start. This is about the Long Island serial killer. Now, when I originally decided to look this up, I was not looking for the Long Island serial killer. Believe me, I wasn't trying to. I was looking for I was looking up one of the victims. I was watching a movie on Netflix, and I think it was called Lost Girls or the Lost. It had Lost in the word or in the title. And it was about a mother who was searching for her daughter who was missing, and how she, went about searching for her and finding things out, and then finding out, okay, where she was last seen, so forth and so on. Now, as a side note, she did find out that her daughter was an escort, and that the last place she had seen her, or she had been seen, was at one of her clients' homes, and that she had been seen running away from the house scared. They never could find her. So I, went to look her up, couldn't find it. Well, it came up with the Long Island serial killer. She is not the only victim. Now, as I was watching this, oh my gosh, there was so many more victims that were, found, and that, had been reported and so forth. And basically, almost 16 people. And he's also known as the Gilgo Beach Killer or the Craigslist Ripper. And he's an unidentified serial killer, and he's been believed to have murdered 10 to 16 people over a period of 20 years, mostly prostitutes. And he left their bodies in areas on the South Shore of Long Island, New York. And this all took place in like 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. So let's hop into this, and I'll kind of give you the whole gist of it. Now, this is an unsolved case. They have yet to identify him or the suspect. They don't know who they are or he is. The reason I say that'll become clear. Goodness, excuse me. I am so sorry. The victims were found along the Ocean Parkway near the remote beach towns of Gilgo and Oak Beach in Suffolk County, and the area of Jones Beach State Park in Nassau County. So this guy kind of stuck to, Long Island. I don't know if it's because he lived there or what. So the remains of 4 victims were found in December of 2010, while 6 more sets of remains were found in March of April 2011. Now, I'm going to kind of give you a side note. During all of this, Sarah Gilbert's mother, Mary, had been searching for her daughter, hounding the police because the police weren't doing anything. And, she's, hounding the police commissioner. And anyway, long story short, they end up going and looking for her. Police believe the latest sets of remains predate the 4 bodies that were found in December of 2010. Now, on May 2011, the authorities surmised that 2 of the newest sets of remains might be the work of a second killer. Then on November the 29th, 2011, the police stated their belief that one person is responsible for all 10 deaths. They also concluded that the case of Shannon Gilbert, an escort who disappeared before the set of bodies were found, was not related. So basically, even though she could have possibly have been, killed by this, this serial killer, they assumed and basically said, she's not one of the victims just because she disappeared before before they found these. The Suffolk District Attorney, Thomas Spoda, said, and I'll quote, "It is clear that the area in and around Gilgo Beach has been used to discard human remains for some period of time." So basically, the guy had to have lived there. Now, they go into the police investigation, which starts in May 2010. They were searching for Shannon. She was from New Jersey, and she was working as an escort and was reported missing on May 1st of that year. She was last seen in the Oak Beach area after she ran from a client's house where her driver, Michael Pack, was waiting outside. In 2010, a police dog, in December of 2010, a police dog on a routine training exercise discovered the first body, which had a disintegrated burlap sack wrapped around it. The discovery led to a search, and 3 more bodies were found 2 days later in the same area on the north side of Ocean Parkway. The police commissioner, Richard Dormer, said 4 bodies found in the same location pretty much speaks for itself. It's more than a coincidence that we could have a serial killer, and that's a quote. A few months later, in late March and early April of 2011, 4 more bodies were discovered in another area off of on the parkway near Oak Beach and Gilgo Beach. The police expanded the search to Nassau County, looking for victims. On April the 6th, Detective Smith of the Nassau County Police Department said that his office would further explore and investigate, and I'll quote, "further explore and investigate any criminal activity which may have been in close proximity to the recent human remains." Found in Suffolk. He also said that the Nassau County Police would be coordinating with Suffolk County and New York State Police. 5 days later, now I don't know how long it is before they find her, But 5 days later, the search for more bodies began. An additional set of partial human remains was found, as well as a separate skull. Now, I'm going to put right there, um, one thing about Shannon Gilbert is she had a metal plate in her jaw. Her boyfriend, I guess, had hit her or something, and she had a metal plate, a metal jaw, and that was the only way that they would be able to identify her if they ever found her. Now, mind you, so far they haven't identified her as of what I'm telling you now. So uh, they brought the potential number of victims since December to 10. So this guy either had to have been going for a while, or he was just like doing this, killing people as much as he could. I really, really don't know. April the 22nd, two human teeth were found about a foot from the skull. Now, on June 16th of 2011, the police uh, raised the reward from 5,000 to 25,000 for information leading to an arrest in the murders. Now, mind you, the 25,000 is the largest offered in the county's history for any kind of information leading to an arrest of a suspect in these murders. Now, on September the 20th of the same year, the police released a composite sketch of two unidentified victims whose remains were found in March and April. Now, this was an Asian male, and they labeled the female as Jane Doe number 6. Give me a second. As well as photos of jewelry that were found on the remains of a female toddler and, of course, her mother. Now, that I did not know. That just kind of just blew me away when I was like looking this up the other night, because I didn't know that there was remains of a toddler in all of this. This just kind of just blew me away. The toddler's mother was reported as one of the sets of remains that was found in Nassau County in April. Now, also on the same date, on September the 20th, the police revealed that the second set of remains found in Nassau County had matched two legs that were found in 1996 in a garbage bag that had washed up on Fire Island. So, like I said, this guy has obviously been doing this for a while, and yeah, did not realize that okay. Then, in September the 22nd, the police had started to receive 1,200 tips via text, email, and phone since the beginning of this investigation. So there was like, I get it. Some people want the reward, but I guess they also have to realize, people do just because it's a big amount. They sometimes, do this just to try to get the money, and it doesn't always work in their favor. So in November of 2011, the police announced that they believe that one person was responsible for all 10 of the murders, and that the person is almost certainly from Long Island. And the single killer theory was related to common characteristics among the condition of some of the evidence, the forensic evidence that was related to the bodies. In December 13th, the police announced that Shannon Gilbert's remains had been found in a marsh about a half a mile from where she disappeared. Now, we're going to get into how she disappeared. A week earlier, they had found some of her clothes and belongings in the same vicinity. And the police believe that Gilbert had accidentally drowned after stumbling into the marsh. And her mother totally disagrees with this. Now, Gilbert was last seen banging on a resident's door and screaming for help before she ran off into the night and calling 911, saying that she had feared for her life. So, she's totally scared. You got to admit, who can blame her? To December 10th, 2015, the police commissioner, Tony Sinai, announced that the FBI had officially joined the investigation. So it takes them 5 years before they finally, the FBI is finally brought into this. The day before, former Commissioner James Burke, who resigned in October, had been indicted for alleged police brutality and other issues. He was said to have blocked FBI involvement in the case for years. So, not only was he just, now I don't know why he wanted to block it. There's no reason to. Not unless he felt, okay, this is my case. This is where, my city, town, county, whatever. So it's my responsibility, and you're not gonna. I don't know. You don't know these things because they don't. You don't get into these things. The FBI had previously assisted in the search for the investigation, or search for the victims, but they were never ever officially part of the investigation, which I don't understand why, because, they're searching for, numerous victims, and the FBI is not involved. But then again, if the police commissioner is the one that's, blocking it, I totally get it. I mean, I don't know. So then, September the 12th of 2017, the county prosecutor announced that John Bitroloff, a carpenter in Manorville, Long Island, who was convicted in May of 2017, and sentenced in September in 2 homicides of 2 prostitutes in 93 and 94, was a suspect in at least one of the Long Island serial killer murders. Now Bitroloff had been linked to the 1990 murders by DNA. I mean, seriously, come on. The police made no comment as the investigation is active. And in June 2019, a proposal was made to use genetic genealogy to identify the unidentified victims, possibly the killer. Now, you got to remember, there's three different police commissioners in all of this time. Now we have a 4th one. On January the 16th, 2020, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart released images of a belt that was found with the letters HM or WH, depending on whichever way you wanted to look at the belt. Sorry, I'm sitting here running my mouth and not diamond painting. I apologize. I'm trying to, The belt was found during the initial investigation. So the whole investigation that started all of this, that started, them searching for these victims, they found this belt. The police believe that the belt was handled by the perpetrator and didn't belong to the victims. The police revealed, very few details regarding all of this, and announced that new scientific evidence was being used to in the investigation, and they had launched Gilgo News, which was a website that enacted the police to share news and receive tips regarding the investigation. Now, in May 2020, the identity of Jane Doe number 6. Now remember, she's the one that they she's the Jane Doe number 6, that one of the ones that nobody could be identified, had been confirmed, but her name was not released to the public. And then on May 28th, she was identified as Valerie Mack, who also went by the name of Melissa Taylor. So you can see this guy just didn't play around. I mean, obviously he's been doing this for a long time, and nobody can still find him for all we know. So now we're going to get into the suspects and who it could be. Now, there's I think like 4 or 5, I forget. And there's a lot of theories on each, suspect. And because when I was watching this, I was surprised at how many suspects there were. And there is one that I thought was really, really obvious, but they, they didn't see it that way. The identity of the killer. Now, the media had speculated about a profile of the killer referred to by the police as Joe C. He's an unknown subject, so you don't know who he is. So he's most likely a white male in his 20s to mid 40s who was very familiar with South Shore and had access to burlap bags. What is K? I need that again. Which he had used to dispose of the bodies. And now this is interesting. He also may have detailed knowledge of law enforcement techniques and perhaps how to tie law enforcement, and perhaps ties to law enforcement, which thus far has helped him to avoid being detected. So, that's kind of creepy to think that, okay, this guy could be somehow, tied to law enforcement somehow. It just, that's kind of creepy. So, let's see. Now, now that this all blew up. I mean, some of you remember this being on the news. I do sort of, kind of, because at the time, I can remember hearing about it and passing on the news. I wasn't very good at watching the news. I'm not very good at keeping up on current events. Sorry. It's just the way I am. I don't know why, but I need to start doing so because, yeah. Newsday speculated that that serial killer Joe Rifkin, which was a former resident of Long Island, may have been responsible for some of the older remains that were found in Long Beach, and that were found in March and April of 2011, and 4 of the victims' complete bodies were never found. In an interview in 2011, He denied having anything to do with the discovered remains. And now we're going to get into the suspects, that persons of interest. The first one is James Burke. Now, December 2016, the attorney for the Gilbert family had said that an escort who conducted business with the former police chief, James Burke, claimed he was connected claimed that he was connected to the Long Island murders. Now, how they figured that out, I don't know, but you never see. This is one thing, they never really went into the whole um, investigation on the movie, but they kind of um, let you know there was more than just one suspect. Now, Burke in 2016, Burke had been sentenced to 46 months in federal prison for beating a man who stole a duffel bag filled with sex toys and pornography. Okay, really? Um, uh-huh. So, as you can see, that's kind of creepy in its own way because, yeah, this guy is kind of, Mm-hmm. Okay, now he pleaded guilty in February 2016 to charges of civil rights violation and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Now, Gilbert's attorney said that in December that an escort claimed that she wanted to have rough sex with Burke during an Oak Beach party. The second escort was identified herself as Lane, or I don't know, and she specifically had stated that at the first party that the first party she attended in April of 2011, she saw Burke drag an Asian looking woman by the hair to the ground. She stated that the woman did think that this was playful rather than violent. Okay, why would you think it was playful? I mean, seriously. But, I guess, to each their own. Now, she also said that when she saw him for the second time, she decided to hook up with him. And she was told that he was a high ranking official. And of course, that intrigued her. And so she described that he had violently yanked her head. And violently yanked her head to the point that where she started to tear up. And apparently Burke was unable to perform. I'm not trying to get explicit, guys. He was unable to perform, and he proceeded to throw $300 to $400 at her. And that was in August of 2011. And then at this time, she was not, a professional escort. She states that this was the first time that she had been paid for sex. So that's kind of, okay. Now, Burke was reported to have blocked now remember, he was the police chief at the time that blocked the FBI from being involved in the investigation. And he's, so that's why he was, I guess, one of the reasons why he was a suspect, besides the fact that he was very, very violent with escorts. So that, that kind of leaves him to have you thinking, because I would be kind of thinking too. Now, the next suspect is John Bitroloff, which I mentioned earlier. Now, he um, was a county resident that was convicted of murdering two prostitutes and suspected in the murder of a third, and was at least a suspect for one of the serial killer murders. Um, Bianca Villa stated that Bitroloff was likely responsible for the deaths of other women, and that there were similarities between the Gilgo Beach crimes and Bitroloff's known murders, for which he was convicted in 2017 and was sentenced for in September. Um, really? Oh, okay. I have it. There we go. Now, he was arrested in 2014 and was linked by DNA that was found on two prostitute homicide victims. And their bodies were found in 1993 and 1994. The match had been made through DNA that he had submitted that had been submitted by his brother, who was convicted in 2013 in an unrelated case. So as you can see, we just got a plethora of people involved in this. This was one of the things that kind of just, blew me away, that, all these people, you've got a former police chief, and then you've got this dude that's already, committed murder. Bitroloff was convicted in 2017 of these murders, and then in September was sentenced to consecutive terms of 25 years for each murder. So he's already sitting in jail for something else. The police did not comment, and due to the active investigation, they can't really, say anything. Now, he was married. Bitroloff was married, and he had lived 3 miles from where the victims Jessica Taylor and Jane Doe 6 were found. So, that they kind of, were looking basically at the people, that were already there. Now, they said that he was a hunter who also enjoyed, the killing of animals. I'm not sure what kind of animals they're talking about. Don't know. They didn't really, say. The granddaughter of Rita Tangeretti, who was, one of Bitroloff's known victims, was reported to be best friends with Melissa Bartholomew, who was one of the victims of the Gilgo Beach, one of the victims from Gilgo Beach. So I'm assuming that's why they kind of. And Bartholomew's mother said that her daughter Melissa had had a lot of calls to Manorville from her phone before her death. So it's kind of like, that's kind of what, I guess, one of the things that tied him to the case and to being a suspect, because number one, he lived in Manorville. Number two, he'd already killed, best friends of somebody, and so forth. So it's just kind of weird. Now, this is one of the last people that saw, or one of them that saw her, that saw Shannon. Now his name is Joseph Brewer. Now he hired her as a on Craigslist as an escort on the night of her disappearance. And Brewer said that shortly after Gilbert arrived at his residence, she she began to act erratically and fled into the night. No reason why, she just fled. Just nothing, no, nothing. And she was reportedly seen running through Oak Beach, pounding on the doors in Brewer's neighborhood. Around this time, Gilbert had called 911 and said that they were trying to kill her. And police never did find any evidence of wrongdoing, and he was cleared as a suspect. Now, also, another thing that this is a little side note. When Shannon had called 911, okay, it took the police an hour to get there, according to the movie. Now, I don't know how much of the movie is true, but according to the movie, it took them an hour to respond to her 911 call. When it was only, 5-10 minutes away? That makes a lot of sense. Now, however, they didn't find any evidence of wrongdoing by him, and he was cleared as a suspect. Now, the next person, that one of the last people to see her alive also, was Dr. Peter Hackett. Now, he is also a resident of Oak Beach, and he was a neighbor of Brewer. And he called Shannon's mother, Mary, and she had later recounted that he said that he was taking care of Gilbert, and that that he had run a home for wayward girls, and that 3 days later he called the mother again and denied that he had contacted her or had any contact with her daughter, and that he had called Mary Gilbert. So he basically denied the whole thing, even though he's the one that called her. Okay, that would raise a big red flag to me, because number one, you identify yourself as a doctor, and then, I'm taking care of her, I run a home for wayward girls, she's safe, blah, 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 or whatever he said to her on the phone. And then 3 days later, he tells the mother he never called her, and he's never seen Shannon before. But see, the police did eventually confirm that Hackett had contacted Mary Gilbert twice following Shannon's disappearance. And the marshy remains where they did find Shannon was behind it was near his backyard. So his backyard, and then then you had the marsh. Now, of course, Gilbert's Shannon's family filed a wrongful death suit against Hackett in November of 2012, claiming that he had taken Shannon into his home and that morning and administered drugs and facilitated her death. And also later, the police had also revealed that Dr. Hackett had a history of inserting himself into or exaggerating his role in certain major events. And they also noted that his wife and two children were home on the night of her disappearance, and they ruled him out as a suspect of the of being the Long Island serial killer. Now the last one, okay, now this is interesting. James Bissett, he's also a considered a suspect, but it doesn't get into what how he's considered a suspect. 2 days after they found Shannon, he took his own life while in his car at Matty Tuck Park. He ran a nursery, which was a supplier of burlap in the region. So there you got all the suspects. And then you have, now there was another suspect that they did not talk about, the driver. He's one of the last ones to see her. He, I guess, the way it sounds is that he followed her to try to get her to get in the car. He's one of the very last ones to see her alive at all. So, and they, of course, they never meant. I haven't seen him mentioned in the article that I'm going through. Um, let's see. They see. I could have swore I saw him in here. Da 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 da. Because he was okay. Other no. There's a lot of victims in this case, and they name all the victims. But I was mainly trying to find the one about Shannon, and mainly trying to get trying to talk about Shannon, but they did not bring her up. It didn't bring her up when I searched for her to begin with, just because I don't know if I didn't punch in her name right or what have you. But this case, is really, really big. There was a lot of victims that they found. And, I mean, there's just, 10 victims. Then they have other possible victims that have not been officially linked, and 10 other bodies. And it's weird that this has gone on for so long. And I'm trying to find the name of the driver, because Michael Pack, and I'm trying to see if hmm, let's see. Oopsie. Um, we've got. I know I'm not prepared today, right? I think I don't ever. I'm never prepared. Hmm. Doesn't bring him up. But he was one of the last ones to see her alive. He was the one that drove her around, and um, they did question him, but I don't think anything ever came of it. So, um, except for the fact that he tried to get her back in the car, basically. But that is that's all that. Like I said, there are a lot of bodies. So I hope you all enjoyed this, because that's it for this episode, or this video. And I hope everyone has enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, please don't hesitate to comment below. If you have any suggestions for a case that you would like me to look up and talk about, please comment below. And until then, guys, have a great week, and I will see you all next time.